Good evening, welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon. I'm talking about the cost of living. I've been talking about the cost of living ever since 6 weeks now. Coming to 4 weeks, we are in the project. We are into this project for now, coming to 1 month nearly, and we are doing fine. We are new. Our channel has been since 2012, but we only became active months ago. And when we say we, I mean me speaking to you because you are listening, you are watching this video, and you are welcome to my channel. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to support this channel and share with your friends, family, and also uh, leave a comment below. I've been talking about militarism as being the cause of the cost of living. I've recorded other videos, watch it alongside this video. The continuity of this video, we are looking at the conditions in Ukraine, looking at the Russian private military called the Wagner. If you have watched the other video, you will be familiar with the Wagner. We are still continuing with the material to illustrate the idea of militarism under capitalism. And in the other videos, we said capitalism is a system of rule. And I also said it is responsible for the cost of living. And to understand the problem as a crisis, it's good to know what is the cause, the cause of the causes of the problem. And that's why I'm actually exploring different dimensions. In this is a short, medium, and long-term project. Going forward, I'll be looking at the UK experience, particularly. When I look at the UK, ultimately, I'll be looking at specific government policy and program of help. I already said previously about the UK that the help is there, but because of government policy, it is not enough. It's just it's worth getting help as much as you can because it will help. Every little will help in supporting you about the cost of living and the cost of living crisis. We'll be talking about uh, uh, things like the money the government gives in the UK, and also this money might be similar with money given in your country. And if you live in Europe, in America, in the developed world, in the Middle East, it's probably in Asia as well, any developed country, is quite similar to what we have in the UK. And it's good for you to look around and on the government website, and from there you may find links to other organizations providing help in your country and the social policy objectives of every developed countries. It may be different in Africa, but it's worth looking for it. I'll also make suggestion with the problem with the cost of living. The reason I talk about the cost of living because it's going to stay here for a long time, and it's going to be a talking point in every avenue. I'll be looking using this channel. Please subscribe to this channel, support it, share with the video with your family, and I want the channel to grow, and that's why I want people to subscribe and share. And leave a comment. Let me know your thought, your opinion, what you see, what you like, what you don't like. And it's a challenging experience being on the YouTube channeling. Exciting in looking at this material. The Wagner group is a military private army of the Russian. I don't know. I think the Russian Republic, whatever you call it, Russia. I think it's called Russian Republic. And some people say the Wagner are actually Putin's army. If you think the Wagner is the Russian military, leave a comment below. Let me know. and they are operational in different countries. They are the main fighting force now in the main fighting force in Ukraine. They fight on the side of Russia. I'm looking at their activity in Africa right now. I'm looking at the material showing the activity of the Wagner group in Africa, the Wagner group in Central Africa, CAR, KAR, CAR, Central Africa. So we look at something called BRDM. It's an acronym. It's a armored vehicle. It's a military vehicle. It's armored. It's BRGM2 armored vehicles. Looking at the photograph here, coming to Central Africa. This was in 2020 in October. So there's a procession of military, a convoy moving on the streets of Central African Republic. So you're talking about the Russian mercenaries, which provide security for different things, but it's providing security for this convoy with President of the Central African Republic. So they provide security infrastructure and services to African leaders in exchange for some favors. It's nothing for nothing. We operate under capitalism, and private militarism is evidence of capitalism. And capitalism, like I said, is the principal economic and political system, and it has been in existence from the beginning. And it has shown different shape and types, but the essence of society in the economy of rule has always been capitalism. So we're talking about a military, the military, and there are militia activities. I think there's a difference between the military and militia. Leave a comment below if you know there's a difference. I think military are more established, they're more structured, they're more legal. Militia are actually illegal almost, but not illegal because they are just informal military system. They are informally mobilized, probably including the Wagner group. In mid-January 2018, it was reported that Wagner may deploy a contingent of its PMC to the Central African Republic as Russia successfully lobbied the UN Security Council to allow it to ship weapons and ammunition to the country, despite an active arms embargo in place since 2013 under the Security Council Resolution 12127. So these are actually describing the movement of Russia into the Central African Republic, the Wagner Group, which is a private and military of Russia. The Reuters reported that France had offered to transport arms seized in Somalia to the former French colony, but was masked out of the country by Russia. Some of the stories coming from different places. In late March, Russia's military or Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated if 5 Russian soldiers and 170 civilians instructors had been sent to the car to train its servicemen. So there is training going on there. According to CAR's president, Central African Republic President Faustin Archange Touadéra, the training provided would strengthen the effectiveness of the CAR's armed forces in combating plunderers or people who plunder the republic are being dealt with by the Wagner Group in one way or the other. Later, the instructors were indeed confirmed to be Wagner PMCs who were sent to the car to protect lucrative mines, support the car government, and to provide close protection for Todera. Todera being the president of car. The role of the PCMs was also to fill a security vacuum felt by France after it withdrew its military forces from the country in October 2016. So these are some of the description indicating the presence of Wagner Group in Central African Republic. The country had been in the midst of a civil war since 2012, which left 3/4 of it under rebel control. And so this is the story of the Wagner Group, the operations in Car. The PCM camp was set up on 24th of March 2018, about 60 kilometers from the capital, Bangui, at the Barengo estate that was used by the car's former rebel Jean Badel Bokassa. So there are actually conflicts within and without, and the Wagner within Africa, within the Central African Republic, the Wagner is at the heart. This conflict, this deployment brought the number of PCMs in Sudan and the core to about 370. These are some of the figures. In April, locals blocked a Russian registered Cessna from taking off in rebel-held Kagabondoro, which is located near diamond deposit. So there are minerals, there are strategies in Africa surrounding minerals, foreign forces, the Wagner being one of them. According to the car government, the plane was carrying Russian military advisors who had been there for peace negotiations with the rebels, and the witnesses stated that 3 or 4 Russian soldiers from the aircraft visited the compound of Muslim rebel leaders. So these are some of the stories, and it just served to illustrate the presence of the Wagner Group in Central African Republic. This raised suspicion by the CIT and the Transparency International INGO that Wagner PMCs were also guarding diamond mines in rebel territories. Several years later, a rebel to the UN Security Council regarding human rights violations in the car noted that the Russian PCMs established themselves in the country's major mining centers. So their activities actually surrounding actually strategies to do with minerals and other interests. Like I said in the other videos, militarism is about nothing else. It's about power. And to have power, you have to have control. In late May 2018, the Noe Zaka Zeytung newspaper reported the number of Russian PMCs in the car was 1,400. Jamestown Foundation Fellowship, a fellow Sukan Kin told Polygraph Info that the Wagner Group was in charge of military operations in the country, while another Russian private military company called Patriot was in charge of protecting VIPs. These are the stories Russia, the Wagner Group, the private military, 10 Russian military instructors were stationed in the lawless town of Bangazo on the border with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, while another unit was in the key town of Sibot near the Rebel L territory. So these are some of the stories involving the Wagner Group in Congo, in Central African Republic. In early July 2018, the Wagner Group's Colonel Konstantin Pikolov arrived in the car and was stationed there during that summer. Some of the top commanders, some of the stories. He would once again return to the car following the election of Madagascar later that year, where he also took part in a security consultant for different candidates. Yeah, these are local elections in local regions. The Wagner playing a role there, security role with African leaders, according to Bellingcat's Christo Grossev. During his time in the car, Pikolov was a kind of intermediary between Yevgeny Prigozhin's private companies, the Russian military of defense, and the Kremlin. In August 2018, Russia signed a military cooperation agreement with the car, while it also helped broker along with the Sudan a tentative agreement among armed groups in the country. 3 months later, Al Jazeera was given unprecedented access to Russian military instructors in the car. While the Al Jazeera crew was filming the Russian facilitated training for car troops, Valery Zakharov, the Russian special advisor to the president of the car, stated that the Wagner Group amounts to no more than an urban legend, and that training in the country was being done by the Russian reservists. So that was probably some form of an attempt to do denial or maybe propaganda mechanism by the media and other interested parties. And in December 2018, the Ukrainian SUB reported that the umbrella structure of Wagner in the car is a commercial firm affiliated with Yevgeny Prigozhin M Finance LLC Security Services from St. Petersburg, whose main areas of activity are mining of precious stones and private security services. According to the SUB, some of the MPMCs were transported to Africa directly on Prigozhin's private aircraft. So Prigozhin is a leading leader. It's a leading personality. It's a principal leader of the Wagner Group. Some of the stories coming from Central African Republic. The SUB reported that they identified 37 Russian citizens who are engaged in the car by Russian military intelligence on a rotational basis as members of M Finance LLC Security Services, whose aide was reported to be Valery Zakharov from St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is where the Wagner Group is actually headquartered. So Zakharov was said to be a Wagner PMC himself. PMC means a private military company whose personnel Wagner number was M/5658. Zakharov also acted as a Russian diplomat and security advisor to the Kaz president. Some of the report coming from Central African Republic. So Zakharov also acted as a Russian diplomat and security advisor to the Kaz president. However, according to the Bellingcat Konstantin Pikolov, was the one who was ultimately giving instruction to Zakharov. Overall, according to information obtained by the Ukrainian USUB, 1,012 Wagner PMCs were airlifted on two Tupolev Tu-152 airliners between August and December 2018 to Sudan, the Car, and other African countries. So this is a story coming from Africa involving the Wagner Group. There are stories of African personnel, recruited Africans who are actually part of the Russian military outfit, the Wagner, in Central Africa, where soldiers are actually seen wearing a Wagner Group badge. They have all the kits, all the uniform, all the badges. They are all but Africans. They are the Wagner, private mercenary. They are paid to do this role, and this is their manner, and their strategy, their actions, including in Africa, but also in Ukraine. And 5 days before the 2020-2021 Central African general election, rebels attacked and captured the Kar's fourth largest city, Bambari. It's a story from Central Africa. In response, the government requested assistance from Rwanda and Russia as per bilateral agreement. So the agreements here and there's understanding, it's real business. Like I said previously somewhere else, I said capitalism is about business. So if I said also in the other videos that if you're interested in solving your problem, learn how to do business. It's no longer business as usual because capitalism is catching fire. It's moving very fast. And no one should be left behind. If you want to be left behind, leave a comment below and let me know. I'm not suggesting that I have a plan, but I'm actually trying to say to people to, you are on your own under capitalism. We in this country, we used to think the country, the government was actually looking after us. We are their children, they are our parents. But if you take a careful look to see the essence of capitalism, then you will discover that capitalism is everyone for himself and good for us all. So those who want to deal with the cost of living should learn what capitalism means. And I said previously that capitalism actually means rule. And capitalism is actually a market-orientated establishment system of promoting business. If you do business, you're a capitalist. Capital means wealth. Accumulation of wealth is capitalism. And then, so the Wagner Group are in business with African leaders who are also in business. With the French, with the Europeans, with the Americans, they are in business. They are in capital. They are in capitalism. They get wealth and they get power and they survive longer. They're stronger And so if you're going to deal with the crisis of the cost of living as an ordinary citizen, you should think business. There are different types of business: small, medium, large. Wagner, I think, are in big business. In Africa, across the world, in big business. You can learn from them. You can understand how to make deals. The difference is that they are so violent. So is capitalism, because it involves rule. It involves war. If you fight, if you rule, you have to use force. Force involves violence. Violence actually destroys life. It kills. People are going to die. And the cost of living is a form of violence. And the state is responsible for this violence. But we have to take responsibility for our lives. We have to learn peace in the first place. But learning peace is a process. It's a mindset. As we think, so we are. And therefore, we are to think peace, think, respect, think neighbors, think friends. But if you see in this country, we talk often about strangers in big cities, in every big nations, in developed countries. Even in Africa, in big cities and metropolitan areas, we're talking more and more about strangers. If we are strangers, then we're at war. The idea of in looking at your friends as strangers is actually a form of violence. It is impermissible. It is not allowed. But because we are lawbreakers as humans, this is not an American thing. It's not an Eurasian thing. It's not a Wagner thing. It's not an African thing. It's not a black or white thing. It's a human thing. As we are, so we act. Behaving as we do. We are actually called upon to stop and start thinking peace and turn around and be friends other than enemies. There is a myth to say you can fight yourself to freedom. You can fight yourself to freedom temporarily. It's a temporary measure. But long term, the whole setup must change. Everyone should begin to think differently, thinking peace. As you think, so you are. We thought it through. We thought it out that we are going to be a fighting nations. We're fighting, world, the global economic world. We are going to be fighters. So we fight. Nature also fight back. We saw with the earthquake in Russia, in Syria and Turkey, just a couple of weeks ago, a few days ago actually. We have seen that nature is fighting back. We are actually using nature as our battlefront. But nature now is also beckoning, showing its color, its natural color, in the form of earthquake, tsunamis, floods, storms, drought, extreme weather. And so we, the people, should start thinking peace so that we begin to produce changes. So looking at this material and for us to think about what is happening. And if you think it's making sense, leave a comment below. Let me know. So what we are talking about Um, they are actually Rwanda bolstered. Rwanda is said to have bolstered its troops serving in the UN peacekeeping mission in the car, while Russia sent an additional 300 military instructors to the country. So we have Rwanda actually playing a leading role in this business of war. Business is about money. Concurrently, Russia and Rwandan mercenaries were reportedly deployed along with the government troops at the village of Boyale, 130 kilometers northwest of the capital of Bangui. So when you talk about war, you talk about private mercenaries. They think about nothing but business, and business think about nothing but money. And so that is capitalism, manifestation of capitalism along the wings of the militaries. And militarism 1 month later, on the 25th of January 2021, car forces backed by Russian PMCs. PMC are actually the Wagner group, and Rwandan troops attacked Boyale, killing 44 rebels who were plotting an assault on the capital. These are some of the incidents involving operations. These are fairly, fair detail of what accounts what happened in the Central African Republic. So subsequently, car forces supported by the Russian contractors and Rwandan troops captured a number of strategic towns throughout February 2021, including Bozembele, Boa, Beloko, and Bosan Goa. These are actually cool names, areas in Central African Republic. And Central African Republic borders the Democratic Republic of the Congo. As the rebels were being pushed back, Valery Zakharov urged them to hand over their leaders to the core security forces. If you're defeated in any warfare, if you're defeated, you are asked to surrender beginning from your leaders. Leaders are really important in military exercises. I mean, you call it what you want. Operations. Get rid of the leaders, and then the rest of the forces actually fall apart. So, during the fighting, the rebel coalition of Patriots for Change (CPC) claimed its fighters killed several Wagner PMCs. These are the Russians being killed, allegedly, and captured one when they destroyed their truck near Bombari on the 10th of February. As at the end of February, a Gazelle helicopter reportedly belonging to the Wagner Group crashed due to technical problems while on a mission to retrieve PMCs who were wounded while engaging rebels that ambushed a car military convoy. Helicopter crews crash. Helicopter crew survived the crash. So the helicopter crew survived the crash. Luck on them. They live to tell us another story another day, because war kills. Like I said before, government advances with the support of Russian and Rwandan forces continued during March, April, and May 2021. These included the capture of the strategic towns of Braya and Kaga Bondoro and Bakuma sub-prefecture. Some towns were also seized solely by the Russian PMCs, including Zako. These are towns within the. These are actually details about some of the operations taking place. in Africa, Central African Republic. So at least one instance, the contractors reportedly included Syrians. So the Syrians were also involved as allies of the Wagner Group, Russia. In other words, the Syrians, mid-May, the Russians captured a village around 40 kilometers from Bambari during fighting that left 20 people dead. In addition, at the end of the month, Russian and Syrian PMCs of the Wagner Group attacked a rebel checkpoint at the entrance of a village 28 kilometers from Braya, killing 3 CPC fighters. So some of the information. Towards the end of July, the Kala military was leaving the front line against the CPC to the PMC. The plan was for government troops to occupy and capture the captured position after they had been secured by the contractors. At the end of March 2021, the official office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, stated it received support of mass execution, arbitrary detention, torture, forced displacement of civilians, and attacks on humanitarian workers attributable to private military forces allied with the core military, including the Wagner Group, as well as the UN peacekeepers in some instances. So there's a mixture between the Wagner Group, the United Nations. United Nations, in the common understanding, would have often been associated with the Western world, but the Wagner is not a part of it, and the Rwandan military are part of it. The African military is a part of it. So, see, they are now actually promoting violence and war mongering, but their focus is actually mineral resources and control of territories. And there is nothing the Russians are doing in Africa. There's nothing the Europeans, Americans, or Israel, or any of those people from the Middle East, forever, they're all going to Africa. They're going around the world, they are fighting for resources. In one incident, it was reported that a civilian vehicle was fired upon from a checkpoint outside Grimari, reportedly controlled by the Russian PMC and car soldiers, killing 4 people, including an aid worker. The civilians were fleeing Bambari. Local residents and rights groups also stated that in Boda is a place west of Bangui. The PMC occupied 2 schools since February, blocking around 2,000 children from attending class. So normal livelihood is disrupted, and people are being killed, civilians are being killed. It's a lot of violence, and still overall more than 85% of the nearly 200 rights violations documented that took place between October and December 2020 were attributed to rebel groups, including the CPC. At the end of April, the Car government received a report by the United Nations detailing abuses committed by Car and allied Russian forces between December 2020 and April 2021. The government described the information as a denunciation but promised to investigate them. The car Ministry of Justice issued instruction to set up a special commissioner of inquiry, which would bring in the country's 3 prosecutorial services. Now, you're dealing with Russia here in Africa, and the UN is actually in the melting pot. It's not clear exactly what the UN does there. But we have to bear in mind that these are actually some powerful forces, some of the most powerful military forces in the world. Russia, and America, France, Europe, European military, whatever you call them, they're all congregating. Because you see, there's like a scramble for African continent, to control it. Vehicle with Russian and Syrian mercenaries from the Wagner Group passes through the town of Bra, April 2021. So these are some of the scenes in 2021 in Russia, in Africa, in Central African Republic. In early May 2021, the car governmental notified the UN Security Council it was requesting 600 new Russian military instructors. According to Russia, the instructors would be unarmed. Some of the arrangements they're making, um, some of the negotiation, tactics at the end of May 2021, Central African Republic government and Russian military forces pursued car rebels across the border with Chad. The phenomenon of rebel and government forces in Africa confronting itself is unending. And if you look at the situation in Ukraine, although Ukraine is a sovereign state, I think Russia sees Ukraine as its territory and also as a rebel force. I think that's why there is war in Ukraine. The incident left 6 Canadian Chadian soldiers dead. Chadian are actually people of Chad. Chad is not very far from Central African Republic. According to the Chadian government, the car military pursued rebels over the border into Chad and attacked a Chadian military border post, killing the soldiers. According to Chad, 5 of the soldiers were killed after being abducted and taken over the border into the car. The car government denied this and stated the rebels who they were pursuing were responsible. So there is accusation and counter-accusation, who is responsible and who is not responsible. Maybe they don't even know what they're doing, because if you've done something, you should know it. If you don't know it, then you don't know it. How disorganized you have to be. Somebody have to take responsibility for something, especially if something is wrong. Normally, people actually say they are not responsible, which means they know they are not responsible, or they are lying, or they are just, you don't know what they are doing. Some Chadian army sources name the Wagner Group as the Russian paramilitary forces fighting alongside car forces. According to the New York Times, in the car, the word Wagner is colloquially used to refer to the Russian involvement in the country. If you watch some of my video, I mentioned that previously, that Russia is actually the Wagner Group. At the end of June 2021, the New York Times obtained a report given to the UN Security Council which detailed that the Russian PMCs, under the guise of unarmed military advisors, led government forces during the January-February counter-offensive. According to the report, the PMCs, along with their allied forces, committed violations that included cases of excessive force, indiscriminate killing, occupation of schools, and looting on a large scale, including humanitarian organizations. The report was said to be based on photographic evidence and confidential testimonies by witnesses and local officials. The report also found that the rebels conducted forcible recruitment of child soldiers, attacks against peacekeepers, looting of aid groups, and sexual assault on women. At the end of October, United Nations experts urged the car government to cut ties with private military and security personnel, including the Wagner Group, accusing them of committing human rights abuses. Some of these reports coming from so their activity in Central African Republic is really extensive, the Wagner Group. President of the National Assembly of the Central African Republic, simply Sarandi, with representative of the Wagner Group, Alexander Ivanov, October 2021. There's a photographic by mid-November 2021, according to a report by the European External Action Service. Most of the Central African Armed Forces deployed units were operating under direct command under the supervision of the Wagner Group PMC, who took command of at least one EU-trained battalion, Infant Territorial 7, and the Wagner Group has established a solid influence on the core military's general staff and other governmental institutions. As of late December, the rebels switched from frontline fighting to guerrilla warfare, reportedly causing a large number of wounded among the Russian PMCs, according to an expert at France's Center for International Studies. In December 2021, the Wagner Group was reported to be arresting civilians in Praia and forcing them to do work for the contractors. On the 4th of January 2021, Wagner Group members reportedly killed 4 civilians in the town. As they left, they took the bodies with them. The following day, the contractors were also accused of killing 17 people in a village near the Cameroon border. Mid-May, between 30 and 70 civilians were reportedly killed by stray fire during an operation by the car military and the Wagner Group near Bra against the UPC rebels. Subsequently, the UN launched an investigation into the killings. So the UN is actually in the mix. UN is an extraordinary instrument because it's neither there nor here. And characteristically, wherever the UN is, there is always killing. There's always destruction. There's a lot of havoc where the United Nations are. They don't keep peace, which is why I say, the idea of peace is very strange under capitalism. And our people say they're keeping peace, and year on year, the UN is keeping peace. It's doing investigation, and yet the killings and the atrocities continues everywhere the United Nations is. So what in the world is the United Nations doing? What in the world is the United States of America doing? The United Kingdom, Europe, Russia, China, North Korea, South Korea, Israel, the Middle East, European powers. What in the world? African powers. What are they doing? What are they fighting for? Are they fighting for peace or something? In mid-February 2022, a Wagner-led government offensive was launched in the northwest and the northeast of the country that involved 400 Wagner contractors and 200 former rebels. On the 12th of February, Wagner PMCs and government troops advanced into Oada, killing Damane Zakaria, leader of the patriotic rally for renewal of the Central African Republic, RPRC armed group, and 20 of his men. So some of these people were killed. Some rebel outfits were killed, and their leaders. 5 days later, at least 100 Wagner fighters also arrived in Sam Wanja. In early March, the Wagner Group recaptured the town of Zako during fighting, which that left 5 rebels and 2 PCMs dead. So they also get killed. But these are actually elite commandos. Apart from the other prisoners who were recruited, some of the forces are not well trained. But the core ones actually remain, but also there are people who are actually taken there as a cover, who are not trained properly, they're the ones who are probably being killed. Several days later, the Wagner members also did clash with rebels in a village near Ndele, pushing the rebels out. These are actually African African fights being actually supervised by the Wagner group, Russia. Mid-March, fighting between Wagner and rebels in a town northwest of Tingolo left around 20 people dead. Mid-April 2022, Wagner Group (PCMC) were accused of killing 20 civilians in two towns between Ndele and Trigolo. In late May, Wagner forces established their presence in a number of towns in Vakaga province, including Trigolo. On the 3rd May 2022, the Human Rights Watch HRW group called upon the Special Criminal Court (SCC) and International Criminal Court (ICC) for the prosecution of the Wagner Group. The HRW investigation, which included interviewing 40 people, including 10 victims and 15 witnesses between 2019 and 2021, blamed Wagner contractors for the killing of 13 civilians near Bozangoa in 2021. 4 days later, the Daily Beast cited car officials who alleged attacks on and rapes by Wagner contractors at Henry Izamo military camp hospital in Bangui on the 10th April 2022. In late June, it was reported that since the start of the year, Wagner PMC conducted 9 raids, including helicopter assaults on mines in the lowest border areas between the CAR and Sudan, with 3 major attacks taking place on the 13th March, the 15th March, April actually, and 24th May. During the assaults, the PMCs reportedly took everything they could before leaving. The attacks left dozens of miners and a number of rebels dead. In September 2022, the Daily Beast interviewed survivors and witnesses of yet another massacre committed by the Wagner Group in Bezere village in December 2021, which involved torture, killing, and disembowelment of a number of women, including pregnant ones. Disembowelment means actually ripping their stomach open, especially pregnant women. These are actually some of the it's like actually getting rid of people from an area. These wars are actually targeting people who are innocent, who are weak, who are poor, like I said before, to clear them away from certain areas. Maybe they want the land and that territory for business, mineral exploration, and natural resources. In mid-January 2023, the Wagner Group sustained relatively heavy casualties as a new government military offensive was launched near the CAR border with Cameroon and Chad. Fighting also erupted near the border with Sudan. The rebels claimed between 7 and 17 Wagner PMC were among the dozens of casualties. A CAR military sources also confirmed 7 Wagner contractors were killed in one ambush. So you can see there are these activities involving areas in Africa, and we have been looking at Central African Republic, CAR, and we have been looking at the activity of Russia, also known as the Wagner Group. Wagner Group is Russia, Russia is Wagner Group. And we'll be looking at this and relating it to why there are crises. And I've talked about the militarism and the cost of living, but I also hinted in another video that militarism also may mean the cost of life. The cost of living is different from the cost of life. The cost of living means you suffer when you are still alive. The cost of life means it's going to cost, you're going to die, you're going to be dead. you suffer to death. So that's what militarism is about. I know a lot of people have different opinions about militarism. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you think militarism is a good thing, leave a comment below. If you think it is a bad thing, leave a comment below. But people suffer, such as you see with the cost of living, such as you see with the cost of life. People are dying in Africa. People are dying in Ukraine. People are dying in different parts of the world. And Russia is responsible for those deaths. Africans are responsible for those deaths. Europeans are responsible. We are all responsible for it. I think it's wrong. If you think it's right, leave a comment below. But I think war is necessary, unfortunately, because we haven't learned peace. If we don't fight, you are going to be destroyed. So people actually fight and fight and fight again and again and again to survive. Because we're at war. We're not at peace. The cost of living is a sign of war. It's a war itself. Because you are fighting for your livelihood. And if you're not careful, you will fight for your life. People are getting depressed. People are going into hospital. Some people are going into mental asylum. Some people are actually going away from home, never to return again because of medical condition caused by stress, caused by hardship. Some people have been suffering since the COVID lockdown with depression, like people haven't rested. And it's one crisis after another. After Ukraine, and there's going to be another crisis. I don't know what it is, but take my word for it. I will still be here if I'm here, and we'll be talking about all the crises. We've been talking about the crisis in Ukraine. Talk about the cost of living. Talk about capitalism as a system. We talk about globalization. We talk about many things. If you watch the video, if you can subscribe to my channel and support the channel, thank you. Thank you very much for your support. Good night. Bye bye.